All right, so what chord did we choose for this? How many sharps and flats does it have? Yeah.
2, right? So F sharp and C sharp.
Cool. And what scale positions are those, and what seniority do they have?
Scale position, so third and seventh.
Cool. And nice. So after we get through our construction, what is the relative minor of this key signature?
That would be B.
Yes, wonderful. B major, B minor.
B minor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then what's the dominant?
Dominant is the A.
Yes. And in the key of D major, what is the seniority?
Seniority?
Of the 5, yeah. Sorry. Not any complete sentences. Yeah, what's the seniority of it? Is it what's our dyad? What is A to C sharp?
Oh, major.
Shoots. So yeah, A major. When we're talking about basic triad construction, we're talking about what notes?
4. 1, 3, 4.
Right. So in the key of the 5 chord here, we would have an annexation here having the A semicolon 5 chord, and then we would throw it up here on our staff. Now we're just past middle C, right? So let's build our chord from there. Do you want to do it in first inversion, second inversion? You want to keep it in root position and have a high one extending up towards the stratosphere? Was that a D on bottom? That's a minor.
Yeah, so this is the D right here.
Cool.
So if I'm looking at A, what if I move, right? So A, C sharp, E. So
Right. Yeah. Beautiful. So you're seeing this C sharp, and what's your third? You have a major third or a minor third above your C sharp?
This would be a minor third.
Yeah, we're going to what? E?
Yeah.
Cool. And then what's the note above?
G.
You got it. A thumb on C sharp, pointer on the E.
A, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, what finger are you using? Pinky or ring?
I got a pinky right now.
Cool. Does that feel comfortable?
Yeah, probably better with the ring.
Yeah. It allows you to get one more extension note, but here's the thing. You're going to do it a multitude of different ways with multitudes of different fingers. The only thing we're looking for is not upside down, like thumbs down, hands over the bottom of our shelf, so you're not doing anything, and then just like way too stretching to like see how far you can go. We're just wanting to relax it and feel where those go. One shaka, one standard male shaka should be at least a 5th, right? Dig it. So from there, right now, we have this chord built off the C sharp, our chord, and then we have an E, and then we have an A. What are we missing here as far as our triad's concerned? Doesn't look like it. Is this a complete chord or incomplete chord? Is it part of a triad system or is it?
So that would be the first inversion, right?
Shoots. Yeah, you're having the C on the bottom. So when we see this chord, we would see this 5 chord as being like a 5, and then we would put a little 6 right there. That's what it would look like in Roman.
Yeah, the inversion, yeah.
Yeah, and that's our first inversion, second inversion. But we can just call this the 5 chord. We're gonna have our notes spread out upon here. We're looking now to have an extension on here. So extending this chord allows us to see some pretty cool things. Let's view it through the eyes of D major 9. So you ready?
D major.
In the key of D, what is the perfect octave? What is the P8?
D, right?
It is. What comes after D? What is our 9?
The E.
It is. So when we're playing our 9, we have the second of the chord. What is our hypothetical note here when we play a 10?
That's a third, so hypothetical.
Yeah, it's because we just don't we don't call it a 10. There's not like a E minor 10 or a F major 10. It's just an F major, right?
Right, so
Just like the 9 is the 2, it gives it a level of suspense. But the 10 is just the same as what interval when in constructing it from the prime?
that's, wait, 10. 8, 9, 10. so I'm in the wrong key. So here.
I'm in the wrong. Stuart, I love what you're playing, but you're in the wrong damn key. You ever hear Les Claypool say that to Stuart Copeland? So good.
So it's supposed to be F sharp.
He's like playing, they're doing some groove. Trey's like, whittly, whittly, whittly. And Stuart's like playing this amazing groove, and Les is playing and going into a song. He's like, Stuart, I love what you're doing, but you're playing the wrong damn song. Here we go. And then he goes into it. Cool. So what we have is 1, 2, 3. Well, if 9 is 2, that must mean then 3 is 10. Correct?
Yeah.
This is null and void. Why? Third distinguishes major and minor. You either have a 3 or not. We're not going to say D major flat 10. Do you see how that is fundamentally cool? However, it is a thing, but not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I always hear like either like flat 9, sharp 9, 11 or 13.
Yeah, these extensions only work with the numbers you just mentioned. So we have our 9. We're moving here. This one is our 9. Then we go to our 11, correct? Our 11 is our G.
Yeah.
It is a major. Right? There is no 12.
13.
And then we have our 13, absolutely. So, with this construct, we have every single possibility that can be on here. Then it relays on the first level. What does this signify? What does this signify? What does this signify? If there is no extension, and if there is no alteration, you won't have any of these. But when we get there, we'll talk about that. What is this? How do you name it? What does this look like?
Right, so that's a D, so that's a chord, and then that's major.
It is.
And then the 9.
Cool. So what are we dealing with? What notes? We've got our... You said it was what? D major, so we have D.
It's D sharp A.
Cool, that's 1, 3, 5. And then what are we looking for next?
So now the D would be E.
And what is the E in correlation to that?
Well, that's a 9, but that would be like the second if I was...
Even if you put it right next to your thumb, squish both of them. There you go, same thing. As soon as you're in the same octave, that's still going to be a D9, but check this out. That's not exactly a D9, my friend. That's called a D add 9. Because what you've done is you've taken the foundation of the triad and you've just placed on another level. We need to have something to support that.
Okay, so
What does the triangle reference when we're talking about chords? If we were to say this, we'd have a D.
minor,
If we had this, we'd have a D.
diminished,
You got it, and then
and then augmented,
you got it. So the only one left is,
major.
cool, when we have this extension, this automatically means the 7th of the chord. What's the major 7th in the key of D?
C sharp.
You betcha! Ta-da! And then, my friend, that's how we name that chord. Ooh, super. Isn't that great?
Such a jazz chord.
It is.
Such a ballroom chord.
It is. And if you know, how about this? Let's see it through the eyes of this as well. How do we just keep that chord construction and do this? What would that be?
What are we looking at? So, no, 13.
Well, you just hit a sharp 11, right? Or you hit an 11.
Yeah.
What's your top note there? An E? No, your top note would be the B, right? Yeah, that top note should be the B, right?
Right.
Because it would be 6. 6 is 13. And then what you could also have there, since you have your E in there, right? You've got D, F sharp, A. You have to have that C sharp in there, right? And then what else do you have? Do you have the 9 or the 11 in there?
No.
They can be. It's permissible. Permissible. Just adds to the chord. You would hypothetically be changing it to like this. 13 and then 11. Or backwards, sorry. 13. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you-
because all those are going to be in it, right?
Yeah, because what is this?
That's the D major.
You betcha. And then what's that?
F sharp,
You betcha. Good eye, dude. Loving it. A, C sharp, and E. What's this?
That is gonna be A, C, so A augmented. No, yeah.
What's an A major? What's an A minor?
Okay, A C. Okay. Oh, so major, right? So because
Yeah.
C is minor.
Suits. Just major.
A C sharp, yeah. Major.
You betcha. And then C sharp, E, and B. Is that a chord?
No.
Yeah. See how it's false? Now, what is your ninth?
The yeah.
What's your 11th?
E F G.
Is that a chord? Has C, E, and a G in it.
C G, yes. So
Feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what happens when you add this kind of thing in it?
so that becomes a 7. Dominant 7. Or flat 7, whatever. Or diminished 7. C sharp E. Okay, yeah. Minor.
Yeah, so check it out.
Yeah.
My brain was never able to do this until I learned every single triad, and then I was like, oh, snap!
Right.
It broke my brain not being able to think this way. Yeah, flatten the 3. Well, that's a C sharp minor. Now flatten the 5, C sharp diminished. What did we do here when we added on this note? In the key of C sharp, that should have been a B sharp, right? But
Yeah.
we don't want this. Like, that's not really the feeling that we're going to get there, that diminished major 7. We're going to have a diminished with a dominant 7.
Yeah.
Well, when we flatten the major 7, we get a B. That gives us being able to look at this through the eyes of C sharp diminished. Right here, you have all the criterion that allows you to say, oh, gee whiz, oh, Rick. D major is what?
Okay, I
Shoots, take me there. What is F sharp minor?
So F sharp minor is well in the context of that A. So
That is the best question. That is the best question. Are you doing it through the context of D major?
Right.
Are you doing it through the context of its family chord, the 5 chord, as being A major? Because it is. All the notes that constitute, but we haven't even added on a 7th until this function. Dig it? All these other ones just happen to be tertiarily stacked. D, F sharp, A, and C sharp. Yeah, I guess that makes a D major 7, but primarily we are talking about these. When you add that E here, you see in this?
Okay. So
Because in the key of F sharp, you would have to have E as being the Tito.
right.
So this is a major minor chord.
Okay.
See it?
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
Because F sharp major and then the E.
Yes, so chord alterations from one chord allow us to see the complexity of all these notes being inside of a melody. Now, do you need all this? No.
Don't have to.
What is the most common tone to be dropped from this monstrosity that still would convey the point of the chord clusters?
I mean, you could eliminate the 3.
Yeah, 3 is a common one. What's another common one?
3.
It'll blow your mind if you don't think about it this way. It has to
Yeah.
do.
The only one I can think of is a 3.
Cool. The other one's the 5, the dominant.
Okay.
Because the dominant is so damn dominant, our brain hears it.
Right.
You don't have to play the 5th for it to be able to register with the other 2 notes.
Right. It's kind of implied.
It's implied.
Yeah.
So the idea is a lot of people just get rid of that. You then can see the chord structures that arise from it. Is this a cool explanation on how you can see how to go through these things? I mean, you just entered a different realm by adding the 7th on here, but if we don't construct it with just like the 7, like if we say D major 7, great here, that also changes what we could do here for our modus or our scales or our implementation of melody. But if we keep it as just what it is, we have, right, Aeolian, we could have Ionian again. All of these are subject to, what would you do for a diminish? What's the best thing to do for a diminish according to scale? What's the modus of scale degree 7?
Oh, that would be Locrian, right?
Locrian, you got it. So the idea is you have a foundation of what you should use mode-wise that are derivatives of seeing that the note constructions that happen through clusters allow us to see the melodies that you might be playing are associated with these. This is a long-winded approach to saying ding, 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 and the notes that you're going to hit are going to fall within these. The ones that don't sound good, like what note's not really mentioned here out of the whole thing, if you could make a G sharp in this context work, amazing. If you could make any of these others like tritone substitutions work out, or use secondary dominants to take a central theme from whatever you're doing over the top of this chord and move to another chord?
Since we're playing in D here and we know that C sharp is there, what happens if we played like the flat 7 as a major? So give me like a C
Construction utilizing this concept. Like, what would be weird? We're in D. C major is not in the key of D.
Right.
Now, if we're going to make a chord extension that if we were to play this and transition just full chord into full chord, how would the two sound with each other? Playing, what is this, a 1, 1, and then it has the extension. Actually, I'll just write our extension chords in here, 11, 13. Oh, bam. And as far as our C here, what would we have that would be interesting? We can start it with major because we're going to be stacking the first tertiary harmony. The dyad is having a foundation of consonant. There you go. You got your G on top. Ooh, what's that? Is that a major 7?
What note is that?
It feels like an A.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's the chord construction? We've got major second, major third, minor third, and then what is the last interval from G to A?
Second, right?
Yeah, so you got chord construction, which is not tertiary. It is not forming minor third, major third. It has a major second on top. So right now you would know you have what notes? C,
6. That's what would register on any program, right?
If you were to go and you were to say C13, what's the chord construction of a C13? Let's spell it. You ready?
So C,
Yes.
E, G.
Yes.
What happens when we go above the 8? What do we need to include? We always include 2 pieces of our puzzle. 1, 2, these are our triads. Whenever we go past here, we need to have either the 7th, that we've been doing, major 7, dominant 7. Lots of chords are constructed from that with the 9, the 11, the 13. Not to fall short, we're going to try that here, but you also have like sharp 11,
Right.
flat 11, kind of sometimes. Sharp 9 for sure, flat 9 for sure.
So in this case, we have what other important extension note? Let's analyze it here.
Okay, so we got the 7, right? So C major, well, C7.
Shoot, well, if you want to do C6, that's fine, but let's zoom through the eyes of the C. So C, E, G, A. Cool. And then we've got our 6 chord here, and then what would probably feel good after a 6? A 9? And what note do you have down? E? Da, da.
Oh, that's a D.
A D. There you go. Hit all those together. Yeah. No switching hands. What are you, Coltrane? There you go. I love the E on the bottom there. Now, ultimately, what did you just do through the eyes of that chord? You just took a C6-9 chord, which allowed you to play a C, E, G, A, and what? D.
Caged.
Yeah, cool. That's your construct. How does this feel with like maybe a add 11? And you don't have to put add there. It's implied by just putting 11. How about sharp 11? Try to build your root foundation in your triad and then alter the 11 up top, not down below. Left hand C, E, G. Right hand 6 on the A, thumb on A, or play 2 notes here with 1 finger if you can. There you go, beautiful. And then with the other hand, layer in your A, D, and then what does your sharp 11 constitute? Your 11 in the key of C is going to be your F, right? So how does that feel? It sounds like we're about to go into some PBS special. Feel me? Now again, what did we just do? Chord construction. 6, 9 add 11. What does this feel like? C major. Is that a chord?
EGA, no?
EGB would have been.
Yeah.
What's a B double flat?
B double flat would be A.
Yeah, okay. So if I were to rename this B double flat, do you now how see enharmonically you could look at this and go, oh, well, boy, geez. That feels kind of like a major minor chord, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you would have C, E, G, and then your double flat A, your C6 there. Yeah, what happens if you flatten this to an E flat? I mean, here's the concept, and then that would change subsequently every one of these chords. So just seeing that from where it was, 6, 9 with an 11 added on, we had C, E, G, A, D, and F sharp. Let's transition from this chord into that chord. Can you play this out? D major 9, add 11, add 13. So you have your 9. So you've got your D, F sharp, A, 1, 3, 5. C sharp is your major 7. You have your E as your 9. Looks like we have a, what is that, a F sharp there? Yeah. Now you've got a, what? No, it's not an F sharp. That's your E flat or your C sharp.
C sharp.
Cool. My brain's not working. C sharp, you have your E over the top, or you have your E in your construct down at your root.
Yeah.
And then how about your G?
With the G.
If you do that, that fundamentally changes the construction of this chord. It is no longer a D in the root, it's a G in the root. Does that make sense?
Right.
Cool. Doesn't matter, they're all the same things. Just, it depends on the way you're gonna name it in construct of the key you're in. Feeling good, let's check it. D, F sharp, A. We've got our major, C major. Our 9 chord, we're gonna be playing out. What you have for your 9, your D. You can move that cluster down here if you wanted to, because you already have your D. That feels like a distance that we don't really need, but I would use the E right there. So we have C sharp, E. Yep. Our G is gonna move it up, and then our B. What do you think of that chord? If you do what I'm doing, you see how my fingers aren't down here at the whites? They're going in between the black notes on my right hand. C sharp on thumb. Cool. So all those notes in there, the one that strikes me the weirdest is the 11th. Right? So if we've got D, E, F sharp, G, this G note feels like could be moved. Listen to how it feels too much of a diminished to me. Does that make sense? So the idea is if we were to take that chord and go into this next chord, can you see the fingerings from those having this? And then playing. What do we have? No, we didn't. C, E, G, A. We have a 6 chord. Would you be able to take a chord like this and a chord like this, play somewhat kind of monotonal, atonal, just vamping in this chord, feeling out patterns, having something cool happen with the chord construction, keeping with the root with the D regardless where you go, and then be able to play these chords in here and take the idea that we used from the, that's a chord you know, C major. A chord that has other extensions where we shift this whole thing over from being here and thinking of it still in C. Can you recognize when moving from chord to chord that you're doing a mechanism which is in itself a chord and a chord and a chord? And as soon as you find yourself running into triads built on dyads, when you see a C major and an E minor and G major put together, what does that tell your brain? Can you think 3 chords at a time now?
Right. So
Like C major. Or how about C minor? Let's try that one. That'll be great. C minor, and then G minor over the top of each other. I only hear 2 additional notes. Work it all the way up to the third so you get a high note tone. And this is what I think we might need to hit on. There you go. The reason why, when you play a note down here which is named blank, any variable you want to call it, hear that note up top? What's that high note your finger's on? You have your finger on a A sharp?
Oh, this one here?
No, pointer finger. The reason why that note affects that chord is because the wavelengths that are being played when they cross each other at certain points, peaks and troughs, create either consonants or dissonances. You with me?
Yeah.
When you play not just a dyad but a triad, it changes how all of these sounds sound together when they're played. Hence, a major chord sounds very pleasing because the 1, 3, 5 are consonant. When you change and you alter that to the 1 flat 3, 5, it's a common tone switch between the median, but these two are essentially using the same 7 diatonic. This one happens to be using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is using 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. But the note values are still the same except for the half step, minor step has been switched and altered. So if you're looking at it through the eyes of whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, then yeah, you can associate major. That's kind of a modal thing. But if you're looking at it saying is what positions are these, and what happens when I cross these positions from another key? Like what does a C major with a B major over the top of it sound like? They're right next to each other. What does that feel like? Yeah, B major and a C major. Feels a lot of tension, doesn't it? How many notes can we take out? Let's take out the third. Take out the third in both cases. Interesting. An idea would be maybe to take these 2 notes. These are fifths, right? So it's just a 5 chord. This is a C5. Now we have a B5. What happens if we do a C5 and a B5 and then we alter our notes going downward on one hand and then upward on the other hand? Don't you think the constituting maybe like would be the great beginning of a horror film, and then you hear dun 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 and like some weird dissonances where you get to finally use Locrian or Phrygian or something. You haven't defined the third, so that opens up a whole new ballgame of what you could be able to choose.
Right. And so you can actually kind of like write out like a chord with the extensions, and you can kind of just mess with the.
Correctamundo. Yeah, and this is way over the top. The idea is when you're writing a chart, let's say you're doing that in, what was that, 2? You've got, what was that, C and a B? So I would be calling that out as being, if I was doing it, I would do 2 different analyzations at the same time, but if I was reading this, I would look at whoever wrote it and be like, is this right? And then once I played it in context of what it is, I would go, oh, that makes way more sense.
Right.
But the way I would write it, I would just have something like a cluster chord. So what would you call that kind of cluster chord? I mean, truthfully, when you put it in a program, if you were to play that, it would probably go for C major. It would probably put it'd probably go for like a B major, put a root of a C and put an NC after it and say it's not a chord. That would just be, between those two, a program would just go, that's just a major second. Or a minor second, rather. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you add a third note to it, like let's say we added the G, the computer program wouldn't be able to make heads or tails. C, E, G, B, C, D, B, D, F, no. So you'd be shooting and reaching for different notes and notation when you're trying to put through something in a program. But if you yourself know that you're just combining 2 triads, one over the top, and because they both build tension, it makes interesting. So I guess what would behoove you is maybe try your C major with all of your chords going from there. You know, what does a C major with a C sharp minor sound like? What happens if you cut out the third on one hand and not on the other? What happens if you switch it? What happens if you go up to C sharp and down here with your C major? Hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's so close to feeling like, well, if you're doing those notes, you're actually feeling, right? If you're changing your bass over here, you're having a C sharp diminished, and then a C sharp diminished 7 because you've taken your C sharp and you've double flattened it, right? So a C diminished 7 has our C, E flat, B flat, and the double flat. What's the difference of having like a there's a half tone off there, it sounds wrong to begin with because the tension's being built from that chord. So, as an example, that was shite, but the idea, could you take that and turn that into a concept where you're like, what does a G major and an E minor sound like? Oh, when I do it this way, it sounds weird, but if I put the E minor down here in the G, it's an E minor 7. What happens when I add the 9 on the E minor 7? And then when you build out chords, you're like, oh, I actually prefer just playing extremely tertiary. The only one I would change in a lot of these would be maybe like the 11 and the 7/9. But you need to play with all your different extensions on top of your triads to go, yes, no, yes, maybe, I don't know. And then we'll cross that bridge then.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
You have fun?
Yeah, that's what I should, yeah. I mean, I've been seeing this for long, but yeah, I should write it out like that, right? And just mess with the triads within that,
Yes.
and just mess around with it.
Hope you enjoy this.